Hello there, Virtual Space Hero community. Welcome to our this week's Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn Live. I hope you're all doing well, and I'm really curious about what did you do this week about digital sales enablement, because we talked about that last week, and I remember that many of you posted under the LinkedIn live stream about what you are going to take into place and put into place in your own work. So maybe let me know what happened since last week. But this week, we are continuing with a slightly different topic. We were talking last week about how virtual events can help your sales team and your sales, your company. This week, we are going to talk about virtual facilitation. You know that Virtual Space Hero is about virtual teams, about virtual learning, and about virtual events. And this week, we dive deep into the topic of virtual teams. We have had several discussions already about virtual team meetings and how to prepare them, how to conduct them, to facilitate them. But this week, today, we're going to talk about co-creation. And I'm really happy that I'm able to welcome on the Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn live stage one of the experts here in Spain about virtual facilitation and co-creative processes in the virtual space. And with that, I'm not going to wait longer. I'm going to welcome on the stage Alejandro Masferrer here with me. Hi there.
Hey, how's it going, Barbara?
Hi there, Ale. Great that you had time, that you made time in your calendar to be with me on the Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn live stage. How are you doing?
Good. Energized after everything we've been preparing. So yeah, I'm ready.
Fantastic. So let's jump directly into the topic. I already announced that you're one of the virtual experts of virtual facilitation here in Spain. It's also because of your company Triggers. And I must say that I love the Triggers card. We had last year an event together, La Semana Creativa, o El Día de la Creatividad Virtual, where you also showed a little bit your product. Maybe you can explain a little bit what Trigger cards are about, because you also use them now in the virtual space, right?
Yep. So I'm the founder and the partner of Triggers. Triggers is a company that is basically based on, we said that we do process design. So we're a process design company where we create tools and methodologies for teamwork, but we call it like modern teamwork. With modern teamwork, we don't mean that you have to be hipster and have tattoos and all that kind of stuff, but have the mindset of making teamwork in a different way and having a more humanistic, effective, pragmatic way of working together. We do several things. I would say that we do some services and we do also some products, and I can show you some of them if you want. I can do a
I'd
quick
love to.
show. Perfect. So the first initial thing that we started doing were the ideation cards. I'm gonna show you. Are these the cards that I have here? This is how we started 5 years ago, almost 4 or 5 years ago, and there are cards for ideation. What you will see that they all have prompts in the shape of what if questions. We had several decks. In this case, for example, I'll show you the storytelling deck, but we have like business design deck, brand strategy deck, even machine learning, and that kind of stuff. The other one that I have with me is the planet-centered deck based on sustainability. And all they have this what if question that helps you out in thinking of ideas depending on the project that you are working on. They all work the same thing. You just basically have a challenge, get a card, and then you just start thinking about ideas with your colleagues. It works really nicely to start sparking ideas and the initial concepts, and it helps energize a lot the different sessions that you could have with your team. We also
Fantastic.
have it actually in the virtual space, as you were mentioning, and there are these ones that I have here. It's the same cards, but you have it in a digital way. So, for example, imagine you're trying to find new business models, and you have packs like this one, and then you can just start a session. It doesn't matter in Spanish or English, and you have questions like these ones, and yeah, you just basically ideate with them. That's the main product that we offer. But we also have a book on methodology and co-creation. There is this one, creative process design. Is a methodology that I created 2.5 years ago, more or less. It got published initially by Gustavo Gili in Spanish, but we self-published the English version. That is this one. So if anyone is interested in facilitation and designing processes for teams, it's I must say, a good read, very pragmatic, very it can give you a very good overall on how can you actually design process in a tangible way.
Thanks so much, Ale, for showing a little bit your products. And to all of you out there, Virtual Space Heroes, go to trytriggers.com and check out the webpage, plus the card decks that they have. They're really amazing. And for sure, they add additional value, really good value to your virtual facilitations, to your virtual workshops. And with that, let us know. I just have a question for you. So I see that there are people connecting from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So check out in the chat function and let us know, what card decks are you using? Do you use other card decks? What card decks are you using for virtual facilitation? We are super curious. So type into the chat window what card decks you are using, if any. If not, let us know also why not. Ale, you, of course, as many companies, also started by 2020, heavily focusing on the virtual space. And I do know that you really went like from not that many virtual workshops to like full virtual facilitation, right? And I really love the way that you're using various cameras, etc. How did you and your company move to the virtual space? How was that for you?
Yeah, it's been at the beginning. It was definitely a challenge. So I spent, since I started Triggers, doing a lot of face-to-face workshops. It was, my life was a bit crazy, just like traveling from Russia, Canada, America, and different parts of Europe. And then suddenly I was just in these four walls, like, okay, what should I do now?
But it looks really nice. It looks really nice, I have to say,
Thank you. Yeah, it looks nice, but I was like, okay, how do I make money now? How do I do my services now? How can I actually handle the workshops? Can I actually translate them into the remote facilitation part? Yeah, it kind of like forced me, like many of us, it forced us to reinvent ourselves and to think about it differently. In my case, like long time ago, I've been experiencing with DJing, with VJing. Actually, I've been doing a lot of live video for bands and on tours and that kind of stuff. That's on my past when I was in my early 20s. And then I was basically thinking, okay, now I'm here in these four walls. How can I make this a bit more like a show, so to bring the excitement back to the remote facilitation? Because many of the meetings that I got in, they were just like a lot of people looking confused, bored, or just like, not wanting to be there. And it really felt that I needed an extra layer and an extra effort from me, not only to be like, kind of like shouting to the camera and moving a lot to bring the energy, but actually to do something with technology and trying to bring that benefit that technology is. So I started experimenting a bit with that camera, then I bought another camera, and then I started doing things like what I show you now with my hands and the products. And I realized that I was really good already in the analog world. Is actually not fighting with the digital world. We can bring the amazing things of the analog on camera too. And then I started developing some stuff, and here we are now, surrounded of gadgets and and things all around my house. Good that I live alone.
Yeah, it's fun how our workspaces change there, right? So what we are now looking at when we look behind our cameras. Ale, but let me ask you, what do you think is the skill set that a virtual facilitator needs? So if you think also about yourself, you said, of course, there is to some extent the facilitation skills, it is the technological skills. Is there something else that you needed to develop when you changed and moved towards a virtual space?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, the first thing that I want to say is that when we talk about virtual facilitation or even managing teams in a virtual world, it's not like you need to start from zero. You need to bring the knowledge that you had before when you were facilitating sessions in the real world, let's call it. So if you were actually suffering with your team in real world, you're gonna be suffering on the remote one too. And if you were doing well on the analog one, then you're probably gonna be adapting very well and very easily on the remote one. Some extra things, definitely what you mentioned, you need to be a bit savvy when it comes to tech. You don't need to as much gadgets as I have, but at least you need to be a bit skillful in terms of some software, being able to also to maintain your mind very cold when it comes to like technology problems and troubleshooting, because they will happen. But it's about to staying calm and so on. And then it's just like, maybe the biggest skill is to understand how to keep and maintain people's attention without being too in front of the camera and making all about you. So you need to start thinking. For example, something that I do a lot is, before, maybe I was doing a workshop where I had to explain something in theory, and I could be for like an hour explaining a theory. Well, I'm exaggerating. An hour is still a lot, but an hour explaining something. In virtual world, you cannot. So what I do is actually to reverse the process. What I do is to make exercises so people get to the same conclusions that I got, in my when I was working on my theories. So they will be actively working on it and learning at the same time. So you need to kind of like reverse the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think just to pick up on what you're saying, like this flipping or flipped classroom from an educational context, it's something
Exactly.
that also it's much more. It's important also in-presence workshops, but it's much more important in the virtual space. And there is one quote I really love that Joshua Davis introduced me to. It is, the one who's doing the talking is the one who's doing the learning. So also to think about how much you involve really your participants in virtual sessions to engage in activities, as you were saying. Let me come a little bit to the topic, a little bit a deeper dive into the topic. When we talk about virtual facilitation and preparation for a virtual experience, what are things that you think about in advance or prepare in order to onboard also everybody to the virtual workshop that you are facilitating?
I was sharing some of the tips actually this week on my Instagram on the stories, because I explained there before the sessions that I do. I usually go on stories and share a bit, like record and explain some of the stuff. For me, there are two important things. First of all, remote facilitation, for me, it needs more preparation than the live one. I normally use, of course, like whatever video call software we're using, but I always support everything that I do with Miro or Mural. It doesn't matter. For those that you don't know the tools, they are like virtual interactive boards. So you can collaborate with post-its and that kind of stuff. It's very good to have it, because then people can participate and actively do things together. Exactly, Miro or Mural. Check them out. So the thing is, when you were on a room physically, you can just like take some whiteboard and draw stuff and that kind of thing and improvise a lot. In remote, it's difficult because it takes time. You need to draw things on the software and that kind of thing. So what I do before the meeting or the workshop, I prepare a range of different exercises. I don't necessarily use all of them, but I have them there prepared. So I can still improvise a bit during the session, but I need to have the options already. So my mind goes a bit like, okay, it's going difficult on the alignment, so I can bring my exercise that I have on alignment on Miro, but I have them ready, already prepared, and it's just a matter of like showing them in the right moment. So definitely, first thing, prepare more in hand, more advanced, prepare more things that you think you will need. Don't try to fit it in all in the session, but prepare it beforehand. Definitely.
And when it comes to Miro and Mural, some of the facilitators that I work with, they mentioned that sometimes it's hard to onboard participants. What is your experience? Because clearly in a workshop, it should be all about the content and not about the platform. And that's also sometimes when I believe that it's better if
Yeah. In in my case, I understand that thing because it happened too. What I normally do is actually to design the onboarding. So my first exercise is always an exercise that actually kind of like makes a tutorial for participants, but they don't know that it's a tutorial. So, for example, if I'm using Miro for the whole talk, I design the first
You are.
exercise. Oh, sorry. Now this is, when I talk about technical difficulties now happening, so you have to be in this case skillful in actually going with the flow and being like, hey, it's normal, this is technology, there's some stuff that you cannot control. So I was saying that what I normally do is design the first exercise as a tutorial without the people understanding that it's a tutorial. So they're not like, oh, we're gonna learn about Miro now. But I do, like, for example, we're gonna do a checking on how people feel on Miro, and then I prepare a board where they can place a post-it with how they feel in different things or different exercises. So I explain, okay, click here and then put a post-it on the right place about your feeling, and then they're learning about it, but we're not spending time learning about it, if it makes sense.
I think what I want to pick up on here is probably the onboarding to virtual platforms or virtual workshop happens sometimes even before. So you onboard people to the platform that you're using, maybe even with a pre-welcome video or with some sort of pre-work beforehand, right? That could be a good solution as you're describing it also.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I've been preparing boards where I place like different maybe squares where they can put a photo of themselves and introducing themselves, and they can do it days before the workshop. So that's another way of not spending time on the workshop doing that. Or I mean, there's so many things that you can do. Also, the thing about the expectations and what they should do and how they should behave. I normally have a countdown video on the video call where I give some tips. I'm like, now please put your sound off, put your on mute, but put the camera on. So I kind of use those spaces to make tutorials without looking like tutorials.
Alan, let me ask you one thing. So maybe you could give us 2 or 3 examples of different virtual workshops that you're facilitating. And I told you I need to go briefly off camera, but I'm going to be here with you, of course, listening. Okay. So 2 examples of different virtual workshops and the methodology you used to co-create processes, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in my case, I've been facilitating many different type of workshops. Normally, they're all around co-creation, ideation, sometimes reflection. But yeah, I would say like maybe these two are the different topics. The first one is on ideation. And when it comes to ideation, what I try to do is to prepare exercises where they can not only ideate, because this is kind of like the classic thing. When people think about ideation, they just like think immediately into creating ideas and generating ideas. But normally I go into these workshops knowing that people need a bit of preparation. So what I do is prepare some phases on and some exercises on understanding the problem, sharing the different informations that they have, just basically putting the whole group aligned into the same information. I do it with normally as again with Miro, doing exercises on asking them questions or categorizing the information in a specific way, or even you can be super. That's the cool thing about the virtual world, that you can be super creative. I designed boards when, for example, it looks like a sea, like a sea, and then just like deep waters. So the deepest water is about what you don't know, the unknown. It looks dark and so on. Then you have the mid waters, where it's about like things that you cannot know, and the surface that are things that are super clear to you. And I prepare all these exercises in a very kind of like beautiful and eye-catching way. So again, it's just about engaging people in the experiences. And once again, that's the cool thing about virtual events, that you can design the space as you want. Before, I normally go to a room that is not my room. I don't control it. I don't know how it looks like, and I have to be happy with what it is. So in this case, I'm able to control the whole room, the interactive room.
I loved the example you were giving, that you were able to control much better the room. That's a very it's a very, very good point. When it comes to virtual facilitation, you said you're working a lot with Miro or Mural, and so as a technology like the meeting you're in, is it probably depending on the client, whether it's Microsoft Teams or Zoom or any other platform? Do you also use, for example, platforms that are more naturally connecting people, for example, like Remo or Wonder or Cumo Space, as a few examples?
Mm. No, to be honest, I've been sticking to just Miro Mural and just the video call software. I wanted to experiment a bit more with some more advanced software. So I discovered these ones that they really create a virtual world where you have an avatar and you can move around, and then you can get closer to people and listen to them, and again, get further and then don't listen to them and that kind of stuff. But still waiting for the right moment to do that, because this is also a very important thing, and it could be a really big mistake, is using technology just for the sake of using technology. You should use
Absolutely.
these things. They are tools, and for tools they need a purpose. If they're just like fitting in because you just want to fit it in, then probably it's going to look forced.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a little bit of an organizational question. The workshops that you are preparing and designing, usually how long are they? How many breaks do you calculate in? How much interaction? There is this rule of thumb, every 5 to 7 minutes an interaction, for example, when it comes into the virtual space or to virtual facilitation. How do you keep your participants engaged?
Hmm. Well, being super honest, I've been always a person that trusts more my intuition and um my yeah, basically what I feel in the room. How I measure the temperature of the room. It doesn't matter if it's virtual, if it's analog. So I don't plan it like super fixed. I also know more or less now when they look tired or when they will need something like a break. But I have those exercises. I also tend to ask sometimes, like, hey, do you prefer to continue, or do you want to have a break? It depends. Also, how I normally design the exercises is very fast paced. So I ask them to do a lot of things in very little time. So they end up with their attention totally on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I always say this anecdote. I think it was around December. I facilitated a session of 8 hours straight, where we did only 30 minutes break in the middle. Only 30 minutes, 8 hours straight in front of the camera. And this
I'm
was,
sweating. I'm sweating. I'm sweating already.
I know, but at the end of the day, they were like, I can't believe this was 8 hours. And it's because I designed everything to be super interactive and super purpose driven. So they always knew where they were there for, and they were always with attention on it.
Yeah. That's totally right. The moment that you're engaged, whether it is because it is a challenging task or because the atmosphere is very sort of welcoming, people stay there connected. Ale, one question. So I know that you are managing big groups, small groups. The moment that you go bigger, how do you work with a co-facilitator together? When do you start to use more team members as co-facilitators, chat moderators, if there are bigger groups that you facilitate, for example?
That's really cool, actually, because that's a really easy thing to do now. I've been facilitating groups of like 100 people, 80 people, and things like that. And in that case, when I do that, I normally have a colleague, either with me in the same room, but with another computer, or somewhere else, and they help me out with checking if maybe Miro there's something that is working that is not working, or if someone dropped out of the call and they need to get admission to get into the call again, or they are lost in the breakout rooms. So I would totally recommend to have that, especially if you're having very intense workshops and sessions. And you can have it even if you are only facilitating for 15 people or 10 people. For me, it doesn't matter the amount of people. definitely for the more the better, that you should get someone helping you out. But if you want to have your full attention on facilitating and not having the technical problems and technical support, get someone immediately.
And what are because you're working with, and I saw a few of your postings, very exciting, the companies that you're working with. So what are usually the challenges that companies call you in to sort of work on a co-facilitated or co-creative process with them?
And the last one, and one of the biggest that I've been doing lately, has been for Zurich, the insurance company. And I've been facilitating a participatory process that involving totally around probably like 50 people from different offices, from different time zones. And they were adapting a project that it was meant to be for the global brand. They wanted to do it in a participatory way to adapt it to the different offices and to the different cultures. And yeah, for that, for me, it totally makes sense that someone needs to take care of the process. Someone needs to take care of designing the steps and taking care of the different exercises. It's been super cool actually, because it was mainly with HR people and the department. So they're supposed to be the non-creatives, but the task was actually creative. And it's, for me, super exciting to see how a facilitator can bring the creative confidence into a group, even when they're not supposed to have that role.
Cool. Fantastic example. Thanks so much. And I just want to pick up on one thing. So you were already mentioning different cultures. So when we talk about facilitating for different cultures, what is it that you focus on? Because we do know that also cultural differences come into play.
Yeah, so to be honest, the first thing, it might look very basic, but it's super important, the English level. Seriously, don't think this is silly. It's just like I've been in countries and I've been talking to certain groups that basically they're not used to work in English, or the English, maybe the level of English is good, but the confidence in English is very low. So the first thing you need to think about is, who do you have in front of you when it comes to the language that they speak and the language where they feel confident talking. So there are ways of going around. I've been with people in non very commonly speaking countries, like in Russia or Asia. And what you do there is because if they feel very shy about the language that you're talking, their minds are not going to be with you, and also they're going to be very shy participating. So what you need to do is use a common language. Common language in this case, it could be images, emojis, colors, that kind of stuff. So you could ask them how they feel about what you're just playing with emojis. Just put an emoji, or you just tell them to place different images about how they're thinking about the project. So use common languages that is not English, Spanish, or whatever it is that you're using. So first of all, the language, and second, big cultural differences, like try to have in mind some stereotypes that could be true, like how cold they are, how expressive they are. Don't take it personally, and just be patient with them.
I think that's a very important point in general in facilitation, even if we have technical problems, for example. So I saw before my internet broke for a few seconds, and it's very good to speak slower for all of those that have a low bandwidth, for example, for whatever reason. And so speak slower. And that's probably also one of my biggest challenges, to speak slower, slow down, and also probably to repeat messages that are said by you in the chat. So also to write down the most important messages in the chat as well, right?
Really good tips, actually, Barbara. I also need to catch up on speaking slower, because it's like when I get passionate about something, I just like go boom, and also I had to be aware that I have a Spanish accent too, so sometimes I can say words that join and they sound weird together.
Absolutely. Cool. Great. Ale, I have I think one or two last questions when it comes to virtual facilitation. So what do you think is the impact also of your visuals? So I do see you're working with different cameras, and different cameras, they bring also, of course, the bring the participants back because it's something different. How did you reorganize or redesign maybe also your slides and your visuals that you're using in the workshops?
Yeah, so well, the first thing that when I go to a workshop or a class or a session or whatever it is, I always, right now with the virtual world, I imagine I'm competing with Netflix, I'm competing with Slack messages, I'm competing with Instagram. That's who I'm competing with in terms of attention. And I always ask myself, why should someone watch this live instead of like record it? So I need to create a live experience, something that they will be like, oh, so bad that I missed it and I watch it recorded, you know? So for that, that's why I use different cameras and I make it look more like a show. As you can see, I put sometimes live music there. I use my music gear. Yeah, there's different things. You know, at the end of the day, for example, it's very important the human contact too. So I normally always put myself in the presentations like this. So if I'm having a workshop, I'm still on the PDF. I'm still on the keynote. I don't want to be, on another separate window with a lot of thumbnails. I want to be in the presentation. So if I present myself or if I'm introducing something, I'm still there. So they have the human expressions and so on. And also sometimes it's much useful to just show something by hand, so you can express things like the drawing. This is the comparison of like being together and going to the other person and be like, hey, what are you working on? Or can you explain me this? Just draw it because it's going to be easier. So yeah, you can just like basically do this and show with your hand. That's what I meant before with the analog experience. All these things really help catching the attention and getting people there, paying full attention to you.
Yeah, and fantastic. Maria Isabel, thanks a lot for your saludos desde Lima. Big hello from us from Barcelona and Valencia. Back to you. And welcome here. One sec.
I'm glad that you understand our Spanish accent. I guess it's easier for you.
Absolutely. Let me ask you or just a short comment, because I see there, Ali, you have your live DJ set, where now I really know that I need to upskill in that, because I'm always bringing my DJ. I have a DJ virtual space here who is with me in my event, but I'm not capable yet to produce my own DJ set when I'm in a workshop. So I'm really jealous, and congrats on that. I love it. Fantastic.
Yeah, music really brings energy to the atmosphere always.
Absolutely. I also believe music brings energy, but also movement. So I see you, for example, standing, and also exercises, activities in virtual facilitation where people need to stand up or maybe move around. They might be also something that really brings back the energy when energy level, for whatever reason, is sort of dropping, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen a lot of virtual facilitators doing that. I had to be completely honest. I've not done one of those single exercises of like making people move. Yeah, I know, but I use other things, but it's more about making them move here, not on the body. Maybe I should do it. Maybe I don't. I don't know. But yeah, I've seen some people dancing when I put music. So maybe maybe I'm making it without knowing.
I
At the end
think
of the
that
day,
would be probably the case, that people are dancing whether you see them or not.
exactly. I think at the end of the day, to be honest, I always say that you need to find your own style. In my case, I have a style and I attract certain clients, I attract certain teams. That's okay for me. I don't need to be any type of facilitator. I found my own voice, I found my own style, and I'm confident with my content, I'm confident with my facilitation. So yeah, just do whatever feels correct for you.
Super cool. Thank you so much for the tips, Ale. I love it, and definitely I also think that your vivid environment brings a lot of sort of style to your to your workshops, because I think sometimes we are so trying to be in front of wide sort of walls, right? Trying to not have anybody dive into our private environment to some extent. And I really think that's also very impressive. I love it. Thanks so much, Ale. One last question I have in terms of audio video. So also virtual facilitation lives out of good audio and good video. And I see there you have a big mic in front of you. So you look like one of the super big YouTubers. What is it that you're recommending to have a very good audio and video?
Well, it depends on your budget, but you can find very, very good, affordable things like from like 20 to 30 euros. You can buy a quite nice microphone. It also depends what kind of equipment you want to use too. Because, for example, this one has a XLR connection, which are supposed to be the best ones. And as you can see there, I think here you need a card sound for this, so where you connect different stuff, and then I can plug in my DJ set and different things. You can do it only with this kind of connection, the XLR microphones, but they're around 20-30 euros minimum, and then but you need an extra card for that. And when it comes for cameras, again, also for like maybe 40-50 euros, you can find a really nice camera. If you want to go higher, then great. I will just look into something that has HD, a minimum of 1080 megapixels, and also that it streams in 60 frames per second, because then you can see more fluid kind of movement. Have a good light. I have some here to just, especially because I have my light on the back, the light that comes from beautiful Barcelona on the back. That's normally, please don't do this at home, because you need to be actually on reverse. You need to be like facing the natural light. But this is me. I'm against the rules, so that's why I do it. Also, I want people to see my plants instead of like my wall. That's what I did it. But then I need a lot of light in front of me.
Fantastic. So I think there are super valuable ideas and comments for all the leaders out there who co-facilitate or facilitate and moderate co-creative processes. Thank you so much, Ale, for being with us. It was a super pleasure having you here and also seeing your fantastic setup. And we're going to follow, of course, try triggers and your trigger cards. So all of you out there, connect to Ale through the LinkedIn post where you have him tagged, and also check out the webpage trytriggers.com again. And Ale, with that, I'm saying thank you very much. You know that backstage there is sort of a virtual cocktail I prepared, and I'm going to see you in a bit there.
Perfect. Thank you, Barbara, for having me. A pleasure.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks a lot, Virtual Space Hero community, for being with us and also for sending your questions ahead of the LinkedIn Live, so I was able to integrate them. Fantastic conversation and very valuable insights. I hope to see you also next week. You know what is going to happen there. We were talking about virtual events, and many of you asked me questions about, but how can I really connect and network in virtual events? And so we are picking up this question next week, and with Adam from the US, Adam Nolan, we're going to talk about how to network purposefully in virtual events. And with that, I'm saying there, thank you very much. Dov, Tal, thanks a lot for being with us. Maria again, Eva Maria, thank you very much. And Sylvia for being with us. And all the others who weren't able to type in anything, thanks a lot for being with us. And don't miss to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find also all the previous LinkedIn Lives as videos. So with that, I'm leaving you there. I hope you enjoy a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. And thank you very much for being with us. Become a virtual space hero. Bye.